Remember, we watch a lot of R-rated films, use language that reflects that, and joke about heavy topics to create levity around these themes. If that doesn't feel safe or could be triggering, please take care of yourself. We want you to have fun listening too. This also means we might not be suitable for children. Oh yeah, and we spoil the end of all the movies we pot about. Thanks for listening.
Here in the Hall of Heads.
Before we go in to watch the movie, we're doing a pre-show. We're pre-gaming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shotgunning spears.
I've never seen this. I'm very... I've seen this in the video store.
Uh-huh.
And I'm so surprised that I have not ever watched this Robert Downey Jr. movie because I was fucking obsessed
I'm
with
ready
Robert
for it
Downey
to
Jr.
be horribly sexist.
Well, I'm sure it will be, but I'm so looking forward to some 80s Robert Downey Jr.
Also, Molly Ringwald.
Yes, Molly Ringwald.
I don't ever hear this movie referenced.
I know. Yeah. I mean, right. Yeah.
I mean, I think
that's part of why I'm really excited.
This would have been right before he quit being able to be in movies, right? Because of...
Right. I mean, yeah, I don't
remember what...
This is from the 80s. I think the 90s is like...
Yeah.
I think he was getting in trouble in the 80s, but I think like the 90s, like the early 90s is really when shit hit the fan with him. He's somebody that I'm so happy with how he, like, his life has turned out. Yeah. I'm so happy because he truly is someone who people did not want to work with. Mm-hmm. They didn't trust him.
Yeah, he really seems to have turned it around.
And he just got, I don't want to say he got better, but like, you know, he got like well or whatever, like, you know, because addiction is not something.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like he did a lot of work.
Right. I don't consider addiction, I consider it like.
I consider it a character flaw that you just need to get over. You know?
Right. Yeah. I didn't know how to say that in a politically correct way. No, I consider it, I don't know. I hate calling it a disease, but I feel like it's like an illness like anything else. It's not something you choose to have. It's not something that you're like, you know what, I want the addiction thing. I would like that. Like, people don't choose it. You don't choose it. You don't want it. It's just there. And like some people, I guess, you know, people sometimes lose their fight, you know.
Oh,
and I feel like he seemingly has conquered. I don't want to say conquered it because, you know, whatever, but it's just he's someone that, like, watching him come back from that and seeing how successful, also the fact that he is so fucking successful now, massively successful, and he is not usually, I mean, not usually, I shouldn't say that, but like sometimes when people go real, like they hit that, like, ooh, you're getting a lot more fame, you're getting a lot more notoriety, then they they go right back to where they were, and that didn't happen.
Well, it helps that he's a little old, you know.
Yeah, he's older, and and I'm just very happy that.
Assume that helps.
Yeah, I'm so happy.
I mean, it's nice that he got the second chances.
Yeah, for sure.
Rob Lowe is another one where, like,
right.
Apparently his shit was not as nearly as wild as I thought it was. I thought, like, but it seemed like he almost completely lost.
It's interesting to me because, like, I feel like Hollywood is one of those places where, like, you're sort of like you can have substance issues and not be completely turned away, which is good and bad.
Oh yeah,
because
and it's
like
definitely enabled in a lot.
Exactly, right. It's good and bad because it means that, like, it's being enabled, and that's why they can't really be like, we don't like you. But also, it's like, you know, it is sometimes an opportunity. Like, people do have the opportunity to say, okay, well, I'm better now, and then that's that, you know. And I think that that's an interesting sort of thing about Hollywood is, like, while it is an enabling place, it's also an accepting place, which you don't find in many places. Like, you can be recovered and still work.
And I feel like there's people who haven't gotten the
Correct.
chance to
Correct.
the redemption arc, you know.
Absolutely.
But
yeah, about this movie.
I
don't know anything about it. I know nothing about it.
I don't know how I got to watch. I'm pretty sure I watched it. I had a sleepover, is my memory.
Yeah.
And watched it for that.
Okay.
And all I remember is he's got like this one line that he uses on everybody.
Oh, nice.
Until he gets to.
Is it just I'm a pickup artist?
Yeah. It's like you have the face of a Botticelli and the body of a. And so I'd never heard of the artist Botticelli. He uses two Renaissance painters or whatever.
As long as he doesn't call anyone a Monet.
Molly Ringwald, you have the face of a Picasso and the body of a Brat. He meets Molly Ringwald and he uses this line. He's like, "Has anybody ever told you this?" And she says, "Yeah, my high school art teacher." And he's, oh! And then I remember the first time they hook up, they're like, they're presumably having sex in a car.
Oh,
and you don't,
wow.
You know, you see them start to hook up or whatever, and then you just see the outside of the car.
And the handprint?
He says something, and she's like, "If you shut up for a second, I might come." Which, of course, my junior high age.
Yeah, you were like, this is the dirtiest, most sexiest, raunchiest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. I think that's all I remember about it.
Yeah. No, I don't know anything. I know for a fact that I saw this sitting on the shelf in Blockbuster,
right.
You know, and this was just a movie that I would see and I never picked up. There was my sister's like, around your age. She's like 8 or 9 years older than me. I don't actually know.
I thought you were going to say older than me.
No. And when I was like 16, I got very, very obsessed with and into like movies from the 80s, like the style, the fashion, like everything about it. I just started obsessing over it. And she was feeling very nostalgic for her teen years. So we would just like, she would just be like, "Oh my God, you have to watch this movie, you have to watch this movie, you have to watch this movie." And we would just like rent and watch like 80s movies. And she would like, "Oh my God." And we would just talk about 80s movies and stuff like that. And so I'm very surprised this wasn't on, like, I think
it's too adult.
Interesting. Okay.
Oh, also, She's Crafty by the Beastie Boys is in this.
Oh, shit.
Which it was a song I was already familiar with.
Oh, man. This movie must have felt amazing to watch the first time. You were like, "Oh, I'm cool. I'm fucking cool." Yeah, totally. Oh my God. Absolutely. I'm excited to watch it. I'm really excited to watch it.
It's going to be bad.
I can't wait.
It's going to be so bad. If you like pina colada, get the fuck away from me.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Right, we did the pre-show, so.
Yeah.
How did you feel about it? How did you
It did
feel?
not disappoint in its disappointingness.
I was mostly disappointed in the fact that all the fuck words were edited out. I have such a keen eye for catching when people say fuck, but the dialogue is something entirely, like their mouth is saying the word fuck, but the dialogue is not. There were at least 3 in there.
The one with Harvey Keitel was definitely very good. He says goddamn instead.
Yeah, and at one point she said, go date someone else or whatever, but date, like her mouth obviously says fuck. Go fuck someone else or something like that.
Yeah, got a PG-13, so probably they had to.
Yeah, I think it would have been more interesting as a rated R movie. The wild thing is too, like I was reading,
could not piece together what the fuck Robert Downey Jr. was trying to say. Like, I read this
In
like
that trivia?
huge, yeah. I was like, I don't
know.
know what point you're making with any
Right.
of this. But he was like talking about. I'm assuming like the assumption that it was like a very like sexually explicit film,
Right.
and that he was like nothing. He's like literally like we kiss one time,
Right.
in the entire movie.
Well, we kissed 40 times for that one scene.
Oh yeah, right. But you know.
Thanks to Warren Beatty, who knows a lot about a lot of things. Apparently, one of them is fucking. What?
All of the trivia is just like all about Warren Beatty, which
Yeah.
I think was the weirdest thing about this movie because he didn't like it. I didn't even want to put his name on it. I'll say that again. He didn't even want to put his name on it.
Yeah.
I was yawning. Sorry, I'm super tired.
But I guess he did a lot. He did a fair amount of direction.
Yeah. But he did not want his name on the
Yeah.
film. It's always wild to me. Like, why? Like, whatever. Like, I don't want my name associated with a stinker.
It's like a fucking producer.
It's so weird though, because if you think about like it's so wild to me when someone like will like write and direct something and then you know it gets edited weird and they're like, oh, I refuse to put my name on it. It's like, okay, but you still directed all the things that are in it. You still like if you don't like you I
I get
understand that like not, you know, it's not exactly
I would
how
100% be that director, though.
No.
I'd rage quit every single production.
well, that's but being like don't put my name on, I don't know. It's just like weird to me because I'm like why? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's weird as a producer, which is what
Oh, that's
Beatty
what I
was
mean.
doing.
Right, but I mean like for how I'm saying like for how much involvement he had in this to suddenly be like, oh, this movie actually sucks. I'm like, well, you produced it and directed most of it, so maybe it sucks because of you. Like
Might be you.
that's the thing.
You might be the problem.
I hate to break it to you.
Follow us on all
Oh
the
yeah,
things.
follow us on Patreon. Yeah. Follow
Now
us on
that
Patreon.
you're outside of the screening room and you can turn your phone back on.
Yeah, now that we're yeah, patreon.com/ZNKpod. And ZNKpod on all of the socials. It works because our Twitter followers have stayed steadily at 10 for the last 6 months. So I can
Pretty good.
tell that this promo is working. Don't change a thing.
It's about the same for our listeners, so.
I mean, 10 listeners is better than...
Yeah, it's more like
Because
6.
two of those followers are you and me. So we're like-
Followers, yes. Not listeners.
correct.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't listen to the podcast.
No, I don't. Never heard it.
Keith doesn't even know what his voice sounds like.
Mm-mm. I wish.
You wish you didn't know what your voice sounds like. Aw, I like your
kidding.
voice.
Just kidding.
Your voice, it's like a train in the distance. Yeah. Yeah.
It's just all Doppler effect. All the time. That's just because I'm constantly running around you in circles when I'm speaking to you. But it's half a mile away.
I do like though when I'm in the middle of talking to you and you just go into the other room, and then I have to pause.
We're gonna bring this.
And then you come in and you're like, sorry about that.
How dare you air our dirty laundry?
I said I like it.
Last night, during the movie, I fell asleep and I had a dream where
During the movie, you fell asleep?
I'm trying to maintain the illusion.
I see. I'm so sorry.
Fuck. Never mind.
I'm sorry.
I don't want my name on this. I dreamed that I came home and then a certain person that I used to date locally was there with their current spouse hanging out in our apartment for some reason.
Oh, Lord.
I blame you. No one else was there. And she said something to me like, oh, I thought it'd be okay, or Z said it would be okay.
Z said they would.
I didn't say
were
anything
okay
to
with a
them. I
threesome.
just whiffed them and walked past them to get whatever I was doing. And then I remember there was a scene. There was a scene where I was like sat at sort of a kitchen table style or a dining table,
Mm-hmm.
and they were sort of in the kitchen or something, kind of in the next adjacent room.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a laptop. My laptop was stored on the ceiling.
As it should be.
It was super cool looking because it had a white shell
Oh, nice. Yeah.
with like cutouts with black text coming through. Like the corners had little black details or something on it. And I was like, oh, that's pretty slick for, this
Yeah.
could have been from AI
Mm-hmm.
or All Is Full of Love video
Oh, totally.
or, produced by a stormtrooper kind of thing.
Yeah.
Anywho, I stood up to bring it down. I was nude.
Okay.
And I
mean,
turned
we're in your
so
homes.
that they would have seen my ass. And then I looked. And when I realized this was the case, I looked at them and they were like getting up to walk out of view. That's all.
That's beautiful.
Just
That's
needed to
beautiful.
share that.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful dream. I
Another
do not
part of the
remember.
dream was a friend. I was putting tires on a friend's car.
That's sexual.
You know what they say. Lug nuts.
I don't recall what I was dreaming. I just know I'm pretty sure I woke up in the. I'll do this thing where like I'll be having like an intense dream that's not really a nightmare. It's just like it feels so real, and then I wake up and I'm like, I can't believe that that's what my life is like. And then I'm just like, nope, that was a dream. That's not actually happening. And then I'm like, oh,
That is a scarecrow.
Yeah, and then I just hug you, and then I go back to sleep.
So an important factor that doesn't get revealed until nearly the end of this film is that the characters he's 21 and she's 19 years old.
Yeah.
To me, that radically changes everything.
To me, that's
I mean, it fits.
well, yes, but
But-
it's also weird because that's not how old I would assume that the actors were either. But
they were.
how old the actors
Apparently.
were. It makes sense. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. is not 70 years old, so.
Yeah, but I would have assumed he was like 25.
Right,
And she was
yeah,
22 or something.
Yeah,
Anyway, that's wild because they're children.
I know, yeah.
But again, it also tracks for their behavior more,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
Lots of familiar faces.
Oh my God, so many familiar faces.
Were, I guess,
Burt Ben
relative.
Bacharach, right?
Yeah, Fred Malamed plays his landlord.
Mr. Jericho, just the man I wanted to see.
I know, George. 2 weeks later, I'll have you rent next Friday.
Yeah, you told me that last week.
Vanessa Williams.
Just walking the dog.
Yep. A dog named Caligula.
That's right. Thank you.
My name's Jack Jericho.
You said that already.
That's right, I did. What's your dog's name?
Caligula.
Great name. And yours?
Doesn't really matter, does it?
Baranski.
Yeah, Christine
bust.
Baranski is just a random character.
Come on now. It can be a lot of fun.
Well, fine. Fine, good. Take the fun. But why get all involved? Why depend on them? Why trust them? So they can let you down just when you thought that you can count on them? Do you live with a guy?
That scene was very weird
That was very weird.
because that scene seemed to imply that abusive relationships are worth it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like, okay, cool. Just
Yeah, this is essentially a rom-com, I guess.
it's very confusing. I mean, I thought it was going to be more pickup artist-y than it was.
Yeah,
I
right.
thought it was going to center more on his game
Right.
than it was going to be just on the fact that he's just a slut. He just
Right.
basically is constantly trying to
Trying to
get
hook up.
laid by as many women as possible.
Yet somehow, this is my favorite conceit of the movie, is that he's also a teacher? Like
a
1 hour a day?
teacher. He's a teacher. And also, I don't know why you say 1 hour a day, because it's just like, we just don't see it very much. But you're like, what is it, an hour a day? It's just,
Yeah.
it doesn't- This is what was
Jesus.
so confrontational. No, this is what was confusing for me. Is that the time of day never seemed to be consistent.
Well, that's what I mean.
Like, it would literally, one, she wears, like, the same exact outfit for the entire, like, movie. Like, she wears a dress, and then she wears pants and a button-up with, like, a jacket over it, and that's it. That's all you see her in for the rest of the film.
He's in the same outfit once he puts that black shirt on.
Yeah.
But
like, it'll literally be like, yeah, there's no consistency over, and I don't know if they spliced,
I don't even know how much.
I don't know if they just edited the, it incorrectly, but like there are so many scenes that are like, it's still today, like it's still today,
Is it
and
all
then it's like
take place on one day?
Right, but then it's like tomorrow, and then they'll be like, do this by tomorrow, and then and then it looks like it's the next day, and then they're like, it's have dinner with me. Like when he gets back from Atlantic City at the end, I assumed it was morning because they were there at night, and he gets in there, and she's like, she's like, hey, and he says, what do you want? She's like, we have dinner with me, and he's like, okay, and then they start walking off, and I'm like,
oh
is
yeah,
it dinner time?
That was just a bookend though, so
Well, I know,
like a callback.
A callback to what?
Him saying that to her.
Oh, he did?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's a callback.
You can't expect me to remember. He talks so much in this movie.
But that's what makes it a rom-com.
Oh, okay.
Also, it's basically stalking for love.
It's really weird.
It's very inexplicable.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, I don't know. It was like, this is the thing that's always, this is what's mostly confusing for me, is that like, I don't want to say like I'm incapable of hookups, obviously, because I've had them, but I'm incapable of being attracted to a person solely on looks.
Yeah.
Like, I just can't do it. Like, if someone opens their mouth and they sound like a fucking idiot, I cannot feel any sort of sexual attraction to them whatsoever. I don't experience that. And people will be like I've had people say, like, you know how when people are stupid but they're really hot, so you sleep with them? And I'm like, no. And they're like, no, but like when you like someone a lot, but like their
I've
political
always struggled with this.
Are so, and I'm like, no, I literally don't know what I'm not kidding. I cannot comprehend being attracted to somebody like that. So like a lot of like hookup culture is like very confusing to me because I just don't.
It's so prevalent in media, but I feel like it's this basic. It's sociopathic behavior.
I think it's just the ability. I don't know. Like, this is a thing where, like, I think there are different, I don't want to say different kind of, like, sexualities, because that's not really what I mean.
Yeah, you mean orientations.
Yeah, no.
Preferences, lifestyles.
Kind of. I mean, no, it's like personality types.
Yeah.
That I don't know. It's strange because I think for me it's like it's a combination of trauma and just like my personality does not like I mean, like, technically it's like it's technically called like demisexuality, where you like you can't be sexually attracted to somebody that you don't have like an emotional connection with. And that tracks. Like, I don't feel like, even if it's small, like, I don't feel like I've ever been able to, like, hook up with someone even that I didn't have also a conversation with.
Yeah.
You know? And if someone's, like... And that's not to say that, like, I've only slept with people that turned out to be wonderful human beings. It means that, like, you know...
Right.
It doesn't mean mistakes aren't made. It just means that, like, you know... I can't just like walk into a bar and see someone and be like, they're attractive, and then sleep with them and then find out that they're like Republican. Like that's
Yeah,
not
right.
how I can't like like.
I mean,
so,
I used to fantasize a lot about just having sex with complete strangers. But
why do you say fantasy? Did you never try to?
yeah, not really.
Okay.
I never. Well, yeah, I never felt like I was in a position. I've never felt comfortable like initiating. I'm approaching someone.
I see. Yeah.
I don't know how to do that without seeming predatory.
See, and I think
Or I just never have the confidence.
yeah, I think there's like a confusion though because like people think that if you're like, oh, I can't sleep with someone unless I have an emotional like connection with them. They think that means that like sex has to be like this deep emotional thing.
Yeah,
And
right.
It doesn't really mean that. It means that
No.
like I can sleep with friends. Oh God. Should I shut the window?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna take a little break. We'll be right back.
But like I can like I've like hooked up with like people that I'm friends with and I'm like whatever, it's fine. We have an emotional connection. We've had conversations. I know that I can like trust you as a human being. So I'm able to have sex with you. It doesn't mean that you're incapable of like having like casual type sex. It just means that you can't do it with somebody that you don't know at all.
Yeah.
And I have, hooked up with people at bars and things like that. But what happens is, they showed me a picture of their cat and then they held my hand for a long time. And then we went home and hooked up. Yeah, it's nice. But yeah, like it's just like I think a lot of times it's not really expressed that like people who have a penis can experience that same sort of like needing an emotional connection. Like it's very assumed that men are just like the way that people talk about like men, I'm saying like, using it in terms of how it's talked about in media. That men like just can't have emotional connections with people sexually, or if they do, they're lying, or if they do, they're it's they're just like a pussy or whatever. And it's just it's really unfortunate that like men in any regard aren't allowed to have emotions, especially sexually. Like sex is like it's connecting with someone. I can't imagine just like wanting to have just like hookup sex only. Like that would be so boring to me. Because like part of what makes sex fun is like having a partner you trust and then like learning each other's bodies. Like that's so fun and exciting, and like it doesn't get boring once you figure stuff out. It gets more exciting and like more enjoyable. And I don't feel like there's ever a point where you're just like, I mean, we've not been together for 75 years, but like I don't feel like there's a point where you're just like, oh, is this it? Like I just feel like hooking up with people casually, it's always something where people are like, oh, did you come? Did you come? And you're like, oh my God, if you have to ask, I just feel sad for you.
Is there anything in the whole cosmos that can make this moment any more perfect than it is right now?
Just one. If you could keep absolutely quiet for the next 15 seconds, I'll come.
Yeah, that's the thing I can't imagine navigating now is because of just gender expectations.
Yeah. And I've had like conversations with like men who are like dominant, quote unquote. And they've been exactly, and they're just like, "Oh yeah, well it's just expected of me to do this, so that's why I do it."
Right.
And I'm like, "Okay, well you shouldn't be doing it then. if you're just doing it,
a great reason not to."
Exactly. If you're like, I don't like this is what women seem to like, so I do it. Like that's fine, but
is it
you
that,
like
or
it?
is it that that's what they've come
right?
to
Exactly.
think
That's
you
what I
expect?
mean. Right. That's what I mean, though. Is it actually something that you like, or are you just doing it? And if you're just doing it, they might
Nobody
be
actually
too.
likes it. Just everybody's doing it because they
literally.
think. Yeah.
And this is why I like it doesn't do anything for me. Like any sort of like cis men who are like dominant, anything like that, it's so fucking boring to me because I'm like, it's such a like people be like, oh, it's kinky, and I'm like, is it though? Is it really that kinky? Because it just feels like a bedroom example of like the way that the world normally is. And I'm not saying that you can't enjoy yourself. I'm saying to me, I find it boring. This is my personal.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. I mean, I think we've talked about this in the past. I don't know. BDSM has the ability to be transgressive.
Correct.
But it is also very dangerous, and that's why the transgressive nature of it is the radical consenting nature of it.
Right.
Which goes against heteronormative patriarchy.
Yeah.
So I feel like if it's a male dom and female sub, you got to be extra.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you were just. I mean, it's one of those things. It's like.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
I saw
the water we breathe in.
I saw a post. I mean, this is totally not on topic to the movie at all, but I don't care. I saw a friend of mine made a post on social media, and they're like, "This is going to be controversial." They're like, "But I don't actually think that to practice BDSM, you need a safe word." They were like, "You shouldn't." They were like, "Unless you're practicing like CNC in some way." They're like, consensual non-consent. They're like, you shouldn't have an expectation of not being listened to when you say no.
Right.
And right. And people were like kind of pushing back a little bit on it. And they were like, well, if you and your partner discuss, and she's like, yeah, if you have a discussion, like that's the whole point. Like if that's what your partner and you agreed to ahead of time, then they have consented to that happening. Right. But you shouldn't, they're like, you shouldn't have to have a safe word if you're not practicing something where saying no won't work. And if that's going to be the case, then that's like CNC. And I was like, oh, this is a really good point. I was like, yeah, I really like it. And I was like, yeah, I don't use safe words. Like we don't use safe words.
Yeah.
And I know like professional doms who don't use safe words. They're like, you know why I don't use safe words? Because I check in all the time and I make sure they're okay. They're like, I don't really need safe words. They're like, I make sure that what I'm doing feels good. And if it doesn't, I stop or I try something else and they tell me. And so I don't need safe words. Right. They're professional. Right. They know what they're fucking doing. They're like, I don't use safe words because I don't need to. I don't have to have them. And I'm like, that's a really valid point because, and like people were honestly pushing back and kept being like, well, if you and your partner need a safe word, and they're like, that's fine, but it's really difficult sometimes if you're overwhelmed in a scene to remember pineapple or whatever the fuck. They're like, so if you're saying no over and over and not being listened to, they're like, that's a problem. And I was like, no, I fully agree with this. And like, I'm sure people will say that doesn't work, but the point that they were making that I don't think everybody quite got, but the point that they were making is unless it feels necessary for the scene that you're doing for both parties, no should be enough.
It's fine if you're the sub and you say, I need this to feel safe ahead of time.
Correct.
Fine.
Yes. But that was their point. They're like, you're literally negotiating.
Right.
Ahead of time.
I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what people think, but there's so much at this point. It appears to me, given what pornography looks like. Contemporary pornography looks like. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things that's just expected and casual. Yeah, right. Not discussed.
You're right.
Everybody's daddy, everybody's hair gets pulled, everybody gets spanked. You know what I mean? Like, these are not...
Yeah, this is not...
That's not vanilla.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also not crazy. But it's things that should be negotiated ahead of time. Is what I mean.
Right.
Don't expect these things.
Exactly. Yes. Right. And like, it might not be something to you, but those are also things that like could be upsetting to someone if you didn't let them know ahead of time that you were going to do it or that you wanted it or that you expected or whatever.
Right.
Like someone's like, if someone just hauls off and like hits me during sex, I'm not going to be like, that's hot. I'm going to be like, what the fuck? But
Right.
like, if it's something where it, like, your partners and and they're, that's, then you can experiment more and you feel safe, whatever, that's fine.
Yeah.
But like, this is another reason, though. I do not understand how anyone can hook up with someone and want to practice BDSM, like, for casual sex.
Oh, no.
To me, that's so fucking
way.
bonkers.
No way.
And it's so, I feel like it's, I don't want to say prevalent, but it definitely happens, and I do not understand it. I have zero interest in not knowing you. I mean, I'm not even submissive, and I'm not going to just, I don't trust that a guy's going to let me step on their balls and, like, not
It's
murder
gonna go
me.
well.
You know?
Right.
Like, what the fuck? Like, I don't trust that. Like, I don't know. Anyway.
Well, and I feel like... Well,
And this is not to shame anybody that is doing that. I'm just
Yeah.
saying I personally can't comprehend.
seems real unsafe.
And I'm saying I wouldn't feel safe doing it, not saying people that do it deserve to get hurt. Like, that's not
Right.
how I
Right,
want
right.
that to be misconstrued
no.
at all.
Definitely. Good.
Thank
Well
you.
said.
Yeah, thanks. I'm just saying men are shit. No, but back to the movie. Fucking Dennis Hopper?
Yeah.
Danny Aiello?
How old is she in this picture?
Flash. The time we took her to Monte Carlo?
Flash?
Like 13, maybe.
You took this girl to Monte Carlo at the age of 13?
Harvey fucking Keitel.
What's your profession, Cupcake?
I'm a romantic.
That's lucrative. Where do you got the cash?
What do you mean, it's not me?
On you, off you, up you?
First of all, I didn't look up anything about this movie because I didn't want to know anything about it. I really thought
Beforehand, you mean?
Yeah. I just my month in review, like the movies for this month.
Yeah.
That I usually what I do with those, because we don't have the movies yet when when we're prepping them, so I don't have the ability to take the screenshots, and I don't want to ruin the movie for myself, especially if I haven't seen it. So I just pull screenshots from online. When I pulled the screenshot from this one, the one I used is literally from the final scene. I was like,
Of them like walking down the street or something?
no, it's like, yeah, them standing on the street in the last scene. I was like, God damn it. We were watching it.
That's
I was
right,
like, son of a bitch.
The cover of Night Shift is like the last scene in the movie.
That's true. I didn't know.
Didn't
but
you know?
I just usually pull.
I don't
the
think it
screen-
gives anything away. I mean,
It
like,
doesn't. It doesn't. But
that-
I was just like,
that
God damn it.
the like the VHS cover image doesn't. It's just
Yeah.
them together. So.
Yeah. It doesn't actually give anything
Here's
away.
what I like about them hooking up is
Yeah.
that Molly Ringwald, in the middle of this crisis, he's like, okay, I'll fuck this guy.
I think it's really interesting. I mean, I sort of hate it's not. I mean, I don't know if this is the first movie that really did it. It's probably not, but like, she's semi unattainable for him. Like, they hook up.
Right.
And he's like, "Oh, can I call you, or can we, And she's like, "Yeah, I'm not going to give you my number. I'm not going to tell you anything about myself. We had sex. Like, you need to get over yourself," kind of thing. And he's just like, "What?" Like, she doesn't give a shit, and she's just like, "Yeah, I got what I wanted, which was just getting off, and now I'm going to go to work and live my life and like deal with, I had like a moment of relief from my hectic life with you, and now I'm going back to that hectic life." And so she becomes this like unattainable goal for him, this person that like, she doesn't know how great I am. She doesn't know how great, I could be. And like, he like obsessively follows her around, and she just repeatedly is like, "Leave me the fuck alone. Hey, leave me the fuck alone. Get out of my life. Leave me the fuck alone. Leave me the fuck alone. Leave me the fuck alone. Hey, what if you left me alone? Hey, I don't want you around here." And he does not leave her alone. So it's great. There's no reason that we would talk about CNC at all. Or like consent in any capacity. And then like it ends with like her dad, who it's like semi-implied,
It's so
but
vague.
not. Like, so they try to imply that there's an implication that he's her boyfriend, but that's not at all. I don't even know if that is.
For some reason, Robert Downey Jr.'s character, Jack Jericho,
Jimmy,
yeah, assumes this.
Yeah.
She doesn't correct him, which is fine.
Yeah,
I mean, like,
right, because she wants
it doesn't
him to
come
leave her
up in a
alone.
way where he's asking her a direct question about it.
Exactly.
And in the rest of the movie, he refers to Dennis Hopper as her boyfriend.
Yeah.
It's as an audience member, there's no reason to believe they're together.
I know.
They're anything but like.
And I can't. I'm trying to recall if in the first scene when she comes home, like they do a lot because the girl from SNL, what's her fuck with
Victoria
the baby voice?
Jackson?
Yeah, she's like
Lulu.
she's like, why wouldn't you want to be around a guy that has money? You know, whatever. I can't.
Pretty
do
good.
It.
No, it was
okay.
Pretty good.
And Molly Ringwald is like,
Look, I don't know you, but I don't care how rich she is.
Then why am I here?
Because someone very important to me owes Alonzo a lot of money, and Alonzo thinks that he can scare me into going with
That's it.
and then she like calls him. What the fuck? Oh, she calls him and is like, how are you doing? And then she like is like, I'll pick up some on the way home. And then she like goes home and like she brings him eggs or something. And then like he's cooking dinner. And at no point I was like, oh, okay, so Dennis Hopper's her dad.
Right.
I
Right.
wasn't like, oh, they're together. They don't kiss. There's nothing. Like he's
They
like
kind of dance or something.
sort
but
of like he puts the radio on or so, I don't fucking know. But she like picks up this booze and seems disappointed, and I'm like, yeah, that would.
even though it's completely full.
Yeah, what I took that to mean, I don't know if I'm correct, is that he had stopped drinking.
Right.
And that was the sign that he had given up on that and had bought booze or whatever.
Right.
Or
You
she
forgot
was
to
like,
get eggs.
yeah. So it read to me as like, oh, okay, so I guess we're just not doing that. But again, he has like that bottle of booze.
Man, don't get me started.
And that outfit. And then the next day, she meets
how his
Robert
shirt
Downey
is
Jr.
wet for the rest of the movie?
Well, I was getting to that. That's what I was getting to. So the next day is when she like spends the whole day fighting Robert Downey Jr. off of her. And then he follows her to her apartment where Dennis Hopper's wearing the same outfit and like drinking. And I'm like, so did he start the previous night and he's just been drinking all day?
Right.
Because if so, he shouldn't be that drunk.
He's not just drinking. He's clearly visibly drunk, right?
Right. But what I mean is like, for how drunk he is, like either he's such a lightweight that he's obviously not been drinking for very long.
Right.
Or like, what? I don't understand. Like, oh my God, whatever. Yeah, it's just confusing.
Very.
And again, the timeline of things is so. That was the part that I was just like,
How about the shit of like, okay, so we're first introduced to Keitel and Lulu because Jack Jericho sees, what's her name? Is her name Rocky?
Randy.
Randy?
That's why I said, my name's Randy Butternubs.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Why.
Randy and Flash.
God.
Okay, so Jack sees Randy in a bar, and she's talking to some guys, and it looks maybe heated.
Yeah.
But turns out Keitel's trying to hook her up with, is it Costa Rican?
Cuban, maybe?
No. I don't think it's Cuban.
I think it is. Maybe, yeah, it might be Costa
I mean, it should be Colombian, but I don't think he is.
He's in there right now with the second richest man in the entire nation of Colombia.
So what I'm assuming the implication is that her dad is a gambler. Like what you piece together throughout the film, because it ends up to where her dad owes a bunch of money, and they reference him having had a once successful gambling career.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming he was a drunk gambler and ended up owing a ton of money to Harvey Keitel or to this casino or whatever the fuck. Fine, whatever. That's, fine enough. But they were holding the debt over his head to try to make Molly Ringwald basically become like a
this
prostitute. Yeah, for them. And use her to like make some deal with this guy. I don't fucking know. And she didn't want to do it because she
doesn't do anything she doesn't want to.
Yeah, she doesn't do things that she doesn't want to do. But you find out that, I mean, at the end, I thought it was kind of, I don't want to say interesting, but it was a sort of, it was a interesting sort of like plot detail that I don't think that they played on enough, or they didn't make explicit. Is that like at the end, Harvey Keitel because she like ends up like gambling and then hitting the jackpot, and then she's able to pay off the debt. But Harvey Keitel keeps trying to keep her from being able to do that, and he doesn't want her to, because he wants her dad to be in debt so that he has to hold.
Explicit enough.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think that is like that made more sense to the plot of the movie, but it wasn't it made explicit. Like, he didn't want her to pay off her debt. He wanted to have her indebted to him, and so that he could control her behavior and make her basically do whatever he wanted. That makes sense to me. That makes fucking sense to me in regards to like what all is going on.
Yes.
But his behavior towards her father especially didn't. Because to me, like, he's like, I'm going to kill your dad. I'm going to kill your dad if you don't do what I want. Which is like, okay, I get that. But like, she's not going to listen to you or trust you if that's how you behave. He wasn't like he wasn't trying to like smooth talk her or like be gentle with her, do anything. He was just like, I'm here to kill your dad.
Right.
If you don't have my money. 'Cause you're not sleeping with a dude. And I'm like, she's not going to sleep with a dude if that's all you're acting. Like, yeah, I don't know. It was just like weird. Like his behavior the whole movie. And then when he acted the way he did at the end, when he was like pissed that they had won and didn't have to. Also, it was annoying because it's also not super explicit that they make like at least 10, like they make like 10 grand more.
Oh, right, because suddenly he's got all this extra cash after they pay off the debt. And
so it's like 35-1 on blackjack. And they bet $1,000 on...
And the debt is 25,481.
Yeah, is like 25, 418. 418.
481.
Really? 481?
What are you, glue?
How much?
25,418.
Oh.
Yeah, 481. Oh, no.
Woo. Sorry. Some of that will get cut out and some of it won't. You should do.
Some of it will be cut out and then put back in.
You should.
So it was hard for me to
drink my
maintain
coffee.
it. He sells his car.
Yeah,
his
he
classic
sells his car
Camaro convertible
for $2,900 or $2,500 or something. I don't know. $2,900, I think.
Yeah.
And
then they turn that into...
1900 he bets on 11, which is her lucky number, and 1000 he bets on his number, which is 13. LOL.
And then it hits
I do like when she's like, of course that's your lucky number. What else would it be?
Right. 69.
Yeah. So he so like they bet and they win. But then they hand him all his chips and he grabs it and then he just goes and hands it to Harvey Keitel. And at no point do they separate chips or they're like, this is 10,000. Nothing. They just hand it all to him. And then he's got a bunch of money.
Right. Good point.
And I'm like, what? I don't understand. What? It was very confusing to me. What?
Yeah, especially
and
then.
Not explicit at all.
Especially after, like, or before, I don't even remember the order. Not that it matters in this film, but, like, when he uses the fact that it's a public context to be like, oh, what? You're threatening to kill me now?
Yeah. Also, I do like when she at first goes and she gambles, and I really liked that whole sequence when she goes and she's gambling on her own and she gambles her paycheck and she ends up winning $13,000 and then she bets it all and loses it. I really liked that both that sequence and her reaction afterwards where she's crying and she's like, oh, did you see the face of the dealer? She was like, oh God. I'm like, that's so fucking accurate, because when you're in that position you feel like people are oh man, it was so good. I was like, no, I love this like sequence because it felt so realistic, because she's like, I did everything right. I did everything I was supposed to do. I really liked that.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I sound like I'm crying, but I'm just leaking coffee out of orifices. Oh, baby. I love you too.
I like that she was unaware because Jack brings Flash. So Randy goes to Atlantic City by herself.
Yeah.
Meets Baranski on the bus.
Yeah.
They scissor in the toilet. And then...
Toilette.
Oh, speaking of... Have I told this story? Have we done a Ringwald movie in the past?
We have not. I think this is the first Ringwald and
First
Downey Jr.
Okay, so...
That was so... Did I say her name right? Ringwald? I feel like...
Yeah.
Okay. I said
It's
it
a
and
weird name.
I said it out loud and I was like, oh God. I'm sorry.
Wing rolled.
That's what it...
Okay, so I was sworn to secrecy on this,
my God. All the names.
Well, yeah, I'm not going to use any...
All the names have been
let's
redacted.
say a friend of a friend who used to be a sex worker.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A female presenting a fab person.
Mm-hmm.
And the client was another person fitting that description, and it turned out to be Molly Ringwald.
Yeah. That's when, honestly, I always thought Molly Ringwald was really pretty. Like, I think Molly Ringwald's really pretty.
I'm actually surprised you do.
When you told me that, I know, yeah, for certain reasons.
Well, several.
Yeah. When
she's always such a big deal in movies that she's a redhead. She's barely a redhead to me.
Well, I feel like she's, yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, when you told me that story
of
a friend of a friend of a friend, I was like, oh my God, she's so fucking hot. That like, I was like, oh my God, Molly Ringwald's so fucking hot.
I'm trying to remember
thinking
too.
That she might possibly be queer. Like, even if that story somehow isn't true,
right.
Like whatever. Like, I'm like, oh my God, that's so.
I'm trying to remember if the person in question who would have been working. I think they are also a ginger.
Well, I didn't need to know that.
Ruining it for you?
A little bit.
Anywho.
That's, yeah.
Her hair was very distracting to me in this episode. Fuck.
I didn't dislike it.
This episode of Stranger Things 4.
I didn't dislike it. I didn't dislike it. Same runtime as if Stranger Things 4 was much longer than this film.
I mean, an episode, because I said this episode.
I probably liked it because hold on, it reminded me of I'm gonna see if I can find a picture.
I do like that towards the end, once they're really talking about it.
It reminded me a little bit of Kim Boyce.
I don't know who that is.
You wouldn't because she's a Christian 80s pop singer.
Oh, okay.
And we had this on
She looks like Elizabeth Berkley there
vinyl.
to me.
That's fair. But we had this on vinyl, and I used to play it all the time.
Uh-huh.
I have played you that song that's like, sing and dance now.
Would you recommend?
I mean, I would recommend, if for nothing else, than just to see Robert Downey Jr.
Bottoming out?
No, no. Tooth, I don't know, getting his teeth fixed.
Oh.
Because he has a big old gap in his two front teeth.
Oh, I did not notice.
Mm-hmm. He had a big old tooth gap. He had some little rabbit chompers. And
I appreciated his performance. Like,
I think
I appreciated how physical he was.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly they made a thing about his character for no reason, that he's kind of clumsy.
Yeah. God, when he fell in the middle of the street, it was great. I loved that part.
Some of it I can't tell. It looks really like...
I know. I really honestly was like...
But also, given him saying that they did a million takes of everything, it makes me think that...
Yeah.
He probably... Some of it is definitely really him tripping or whatever.
Probably. I actually liked at the end. I think, well, when so he takes Flash to the casino where they're trying to like kill the guy, and then when she finds that out, she seems like moved that he brought Flash. And I'm like,
they're trying to kill the guy.
Yeah, they want to kill Flash. Right?
Oh,
Flash?
okay. Yes.
They want to kill him.
You said they bring Flash to where they're trying to kill the guy, so it sounded like two different people.
Oh, no. I meant Flash is the guy they're trying to kill. And then, Flash comes out, and they're like, here's your dad. And she's like, oh, I'm so touched. And I'm like, but he was going to, they were going to kill him.
Jack finds Randy after she's lost all her money.
Yeah.
And then they go on this little adventure. They have cheeseburgers. He sells his car.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, this whole time, Flash is
Yes.
in a utility closet, presumably getting the shit beat out of him. And Randy still doesn't know that he's there.
Yeah, that he's even there. Which that's where I was like, I mean, it's fine that she's doing all this stuff. I think that's fine. But Jack doesn't necessarily know that that's the danger that her dad's in. So it makes sense that they're doing this stuff. But at the same time, I'm like...
Why is Danny Aiello in this movie? What is that character?
I don't know.
What's the point?
There is no reason for it. But...
I mean, he's great. But
other than Danny Aiello.
Yeah, but...
But I liked the when they win and he's like, great, let's now get together. And she's like, that's a terrible idea, you know?
Yes.
And she's telling him, and he gets upset, and he's like, look, you can say that, like, we're not good for each other.
You can't live your life gambling like that.
Being with you isn't a gamble. You can only gamble when you have a choice. I want to be with you forever, and I don't have a choice about that. Maybe I don't have a prayer in the world, but it's not a gamble. Maybe what I feel is not good for you or for me, but I'm not going to stand there and listen to you tell me it's a bad habit.
And I really appreciated that because I'm like, that's fair, I think. I think that that's fair.
I like that he gets emotional.
Exactly.
I mean, and not just angry. He seems weepy.
Yeah. Right. He's, like, emotional, but I'm like, that's fair because, like, feeling unsafe or feeling like, you know, he's not saying... oh, it sucks that you're not just jumping on this. He's like, you can say that you don't want to do this and you can say that, but don't say that I don't have feelings.
Uh-huh.
And I think that that's really important because I think that a lot of times men aren't allowed to have emotions.
Yeah.
And because of that, men don't allow themselves to have emotions.
For sure.
So to have a man, especially in the 80s, you know, like arguing like my emotions
especially
need to
a
be
Lothario.
right. my emotions should not be dismissed. Like that's where I draw the line.
Right.
I was like, oh, I really appreciate that. Actually, I was like, oh, I appreciate this scene for what it's saying. The scene isn't saying you made the wrong choice. The scene is like, make your own choices, but don't tell me what I feel.
I
And
also
was like,
appreciated the
shit, yeah.
emotional intelligence that she displays by saying, like,
Yes.
we're both gamblers and we will destroy each other. You know, like, we can't keep taking bigger gambles, and that's where this is going to go. I think that's very insightful and, you know, an impressive thing to say.
Right.
And then even when she comes back and he's like, aren't we going to annihilate each other or whatever? And she's like, well, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't like, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, well, there's some great points are made, some very intelligent, insightful things are said about relationships, and then they still get together, which, okay, you know, like that is somewhat romantic when people do that. It's like the end of Jeffrey.
Right, exactly. Well, I thought this is the thing. Like, I don't really enjoy when movies end with them being, like, literally ending with them being like, well, let's give this thing a try. I'm like, that's not an uplifting.
I know.
I don't think it's like the ending of Friends. It's like Ross and Rachel get together in the end, and you're like, okay, we've spent like 12 years or however the fuck long the show's been on with them getting together and breaking up repeatedly.
Yeah, no.
This isn't
Why
an
do I think it's
uplifting
gonna be different?
ending. Also, fuck him. Like that's a she gave up a dream job to have a relationship. Like fuck, I don't need that shit. So I don't.
We've been over this so many times, and I don't want to belabor a dead horse.
Oh God damn it!
They were on a break.
I fucking hate it. We were on a break. Would you recommend?
Nah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy to have revisited it.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was an interesting movie. I'm not saying it was good.
It's not exactly boring.
Right,
Yeah.
it kept my interest. Like it
doesn't drag really at any point.
Yeah,
There's always something going on.
It was different than I thought it would, and it had more of a plot than just their romantic entanglement.
Yeah.
Like it actually had like other things going on, which I think if it was just about the two of them, it would have completely sucked. But I think all this other stuff happening around them kept it interesting a little bit. And I think honestly, if they had kept it R-rated, I think it probably would have had a lot more to say.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm
maybe.
just thinking about what they probably cut out of it.
Yeah. I kept thinking it, well, not. I want to say that, like, I thought Molly Ringwald did a great job. But she was miscast, I thought. Because when I feel it mostly when, and again, it changed once I realized they're supposed to be children.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't. And again, it's fine. If I would have cast it different because of how she is at the beginning when he's trying to hook up with her and her sort of, you know, that they match wits or whatever.
Yeah.
It didn't quite work for me. Like, it's not unbelievable, but I wanted it to be someone who's a little more.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
I don't know who.
Someone who seems more witty. Seems like what they're saying is witty.
Yeah, or just confident.
Yeah.
Like, she's always played such little mousy kind of characters.
Yeah.
And I mean, which again is not her. It's
right.
You know
I know what you mean.
I don't know.
Yeah, she just like I didn't read it as I felt like her performance of it was just more dry than it was like actually responsive. Like she's just saying something and like you know what I mean? It wasn't so much mousy as it was just like he was being bouncy and she was just being dry in return.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why it feels a little bit flat is because they end up hooking up.
Right.
And it doesn't make sense with how she's playing the scene.
Right.
Because she's not actually giving him banter. She seems like she's saying, leave me the fuck alone.
Right.
And then they hook up, which is fine. Like, that's fine. But then he continues to, like, follow her and do stuff like that. And she's kind of responds the same way to him. It's just like dry. So it's like, I think it, and this isn't saying like it's a woman's fault, but I think it gives the audience a false impression that like, oh, see, she wanted him in the beginning when she was telling him to leave her alone. She still wanted to hook up, and she's doing the same thing now because it's being played the same. And I'm like, but it shouldn't be,
right.
It should have been played differently so that you can tell that she's actually telling him to leave her alone now.
Right.
But I think it was done to give you the impression that it was still okay that he was doing this.
I see.
I'm not saying, and I use that. I'm not saying that in the sense of like, oh, that's what it is. I'm saying like, I believe that was the intention in why it was played that way.
Right.
And so, yeah. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but that's what it felt like. Sort of like you were supposed...
I mean, that's supported by a head.
Yeah.
I mean, she's never... That's the thing. Like,
I'm going to say this.
It
I don't
doesn't
think...
feel...
I'm going to say this.
Yeah.
I don't think Molly Ringwald is that great of an actor.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
She's just a very like dull sort of like. All of her dialogue is very like, well, what do you expect me to do? And you're like, are you upset?
Right.
You raise your voice, but are you upset? Like.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of like, yeah. And it's because she started, like when she was super young.
Right.
Like a lot of times, when you are really young and you're just like cast in movies as a really, really young kid, you don't always develop those skills.
Sure.
When you're playing the pretty girl.
Right.
No, and that again, this all sounds like I'm like, she's just a pretty face. She doesn't have anything between the eyes. I'm not like saying she's a piece of shit or something. I just mean like. Her acting has never been has never really surpassed that of which we see in 16 Candles.
Yeah. And I don't think I've seen her anything like later than this.
She definitely, I think she was in like The Secret Life of an American Teenager or some stupid thing like that. And I've seen clips. I don't know. I've just seen clips of her in like, ABC Family TV shows that she's in or whatever. And boy, I'm like, girl.
I saw her IMDb picture, and I'm like, I would not recognize this person.
I know. She looks really hot in that picture. She looks really hot.
I mean, unsurprising.
I like how I'm like, I think Molly Ringwald is really hot. She's kind of dumb and not a good actor. Like, I just sound like such a fucking piece of shit. I just mean I like her for her looks alone. I think that's fine.
That's the only reason I would hook up with her.
I'm saying I wouldn't want to have a conversation before we hooked up because then I wouldn't want to hook up. Yeah. So that's what this movie is. It's about a lot of... It wasn't as misogynistic as I thought it was going to be in the way that I thought it was going to be.
Same. Yeah.
Was it misogynistic? Oh, you bet. In the ways I thought it was going to be?
My memories of it turned out to be pretty accurate.
True.
The ones I did in the
You're right.
pre-show.
The coming one was right on. Right on.
It's... Like, their initial interactions are, like, the most entertaining part of the movie to me. Mm-hmm. That scene, like, when he approaches her and then when he's driving her to hook up or whatever and his car stalls. And
Yeah. No, I did, yeah.
That's when the movie has the most potential.
Yeah. And like I said, I like the end. When, like, the casino part. When she's gambling and loses. I really liked that. And I like when he gets really emotional because she's telling him that he's just, full of shit or whatever. And he's just like, wow, that's not cool.
I love the idea that Flash is getting the shit kicked out of him for like hours.
I like when he's just like, you know what? Never mind. I'm not an alcoholic anymore.
Yep. That's it.
Naked Ay, eso me parece, no, we dance in the rough. Ay, you didn't want it. Ay,